So as we know in this space, there's a lot of forks. I think, or forks or copycats and things like that. So I think 1inch sort of originated, sort of related to Uniswap. Beefy is related to Yearn in a way, let's say idea-wise at least. Can you comment on innovation versus copying in the space? Let's start with 1inch.
Okay, cool. That's interesting question, actually. I don't see this in any other space. I see this in DeFi and blockchain and crypto, that's probably the only way for protocol to exist. Protocol source code should be open source. It doesn't mean it should be open for copying, but it's usually like that. For example, we at 1inch, we usually develop protocols with MIT license. Some teams select BLS license or Apache license. They're pretty, every of this license allows anyone to use this code as they wish. But some teams, they try to protect their code, at least temporary, from being copycated. For example, Uniswap is doing this. They're protecting their code with business license for a few years. And after a few years, it became open license again. So actually, I like that this is happening, that all these innovations, all these protocols are open source, because it's also a great source of inspiration. I had just presentation about algorithms from those protocols, how I would create this presentation and analyze this thing if those source codes would be just closed and proprietary. Like I can't analyze most of the fintech solutions, especially because of this. They're proprietary, and this means that their code base is pretty huge. And yeah, all this DeFi makes us to develop smart contracts which are short, easy to read, and safe, and probably also gas efficient. So yeah, that's the best thing. But for sure, if we have this, that source code is available, someone always find it useful to use it. And sometimes it's kind of borrowing code with adding new things. Sometimes it's just relaunching same code with just numbers, change it, wallets, change it, or something like that. I mean, it's inevitable, but it's possible to copy code of your project, but it's not possible to copy your auditory, your users. And yeah, the protection here comes from actual traction.
What are some open source innovations that you've also brought forward in the industry, if you can name just one?
I can name few. For example, we at 1inch, we usually contribute to popular Solidity libraries. I'm mostly talking about protocol level because I'm mostly involved in this development, but I'm pretty sure guys who work on backend, frontend, they also have pretty similar thing, but it's different. I mean, this industry is different from any other industry by its protocol level, smart contracts. And yeah, we contribute a lot to Open Zeppelin libraries. We propose changes, we propose features, we create new ERCs, how developers catch up on ideas to kind of standardize them and make it work similar across industry, because else they will be built differently, and it will be much harder for yield aggregators to work or any other aggregators to work. So following these standards is a good idea. And yeah, we also contribute even like to Solidity compiler. So at least trying to do this.
Can I ask a follow-up question to this? Are you considering open sourcing the Pathfinder algorithm that you guys are using?
Probably at some point. We are checking this time to time, but it depends. We try to predict who exactly will benefit from this. And for now, we saw that 1inch users would not actually benefit from this. So competitors would benefit much more. But yeah, I mean, off-chain part of any project was always not that open source by default, especially because it does not involve any security risks and other things. It's like initially the very first versions of 1inch, probably for the first year, it was fully working on front end. So that's insane. But yeah, we did all the algorithm, all the Pathfinder on front end. But what happened then? We had so many integrations. Right now we have more than 100 protocols on mainnet, and this means more than 50,000 smart contracts. So you just can't handle this amount in front end. People are opening this front end from their mobile phones. That's impossible.
I think a lot of us came into DeFi or crypto to get rid of the middlemen, and because we were sort of upset or didn't like the current system. But this panel are all aggregators, right? So you guys are becoming the middlemen or the gatekeepers now, right? So how do you balance that between like becoming a gatekeeper or centralizing power?
Actually, it makes no sense to use most of the protocols which have like number of options. Like, I mean, there are hundreds of DEXs, tens of money markets now, and yeah, there is a huge room here for aggregators, and they appeared and took the niche and got a lot of users' attention and traction. But probably they will be also included by default into wallets. It's easier for wallet to provide this functionality as swap functionality and use those aggregators under the hood and use lending or something like this. For lending, it's a bit different because risks are different. For DEX aggregators, it's not like that because any DEX could be integrated in even DEXs with bugs which are vulnerable. It makes like zero sense in terms of security for users. Aggregator is kind of protecting them from all those smart contracts. It's one more layer here. But when you put your money in different protocols and use aggregator, you have different risks in different protocols, especially if some of them are like freshly deployed like yesterday. They have different risks, and the thing why they have different rates is that they also take those risks into account. So usually I see this situation is that they are or soon will be risk yield balanced. So it's kind of proportional to yield and negatively proportional to risks. And as you asked, here is a room for being a gatekeeper. But yeah, this is something which can be also solved by the technology, as usually. Is what I like in technology, that it solves issues which appeared because of the technology. So, yeah, 1inch launched more than 1 year ago this fusion mode, which actually is kind of intent-like. It's highly popular nowadays. Describe any signature-based protocol as intent. So it's intent. You just provide signature what you want to swap, and then Dutch auction starts. And it's Dutch auction which is improving exchange rate for counterparties, for resolvers, and it's making exchange rate worse for you every second. But there are multiple resolvers and they compete with each other, and whenever rate is acceptable for them, they fill or partially fill your order, and it's like competition driven and Dutch auction based. And that's how we kind of exclude ourselves from this thing as being a gatekeeper, because we allow parties who being called resolvers to help users to fill their orders, and they do it in more professional way. Why all this thing appeared, that we saw that there are a lot of things with MEV attacks in blockchain, and every user, there's no way every user will protect themselves. So most of the users are not trying to protect. Even if you will warn them and try to force them, this wouldn't work. They will find a way to avoid this. And whenever you use this thing where professional resolvers who compete with each other, they do the trades, actual trades. This helps users to protect them.
Are you like centralizing the liquidity providers then? Because you're making it a little bit harder for normal people to be a liquidity provider in that instance then.
Not really. I would say if we would collect quotes from these resolvers and decide who is better, this would be centralization here. But how it works now, users announce like limit orders, where price is not fixed. It's like moving on Dutch auction, and resolvers compete to get the best price for them. So that's how 1inch itself is being excluded from the trades. But that's good for users, because what we made, all this competition for resolvers, forcing them to improve prices for users, to have more liquidity, to have more exposure. Yeah.
Let's talk about ponzinomics. We talk about yield and risk and things like that. Like a question that comes up commonly is like, where is the yield coming from?
As far as I can see, some of the yield is coming from trades, like transaction fees, like swap fees. Some fees in some protocols, they could be different, are coming somewhere, and those who provide liquidity or do some other useful job for the protocol, they will receive this as a yield. They will have some exposure in assets or in work they do, and they will earn. The other source of yield is when someone is borrowing. There are a lot of borrowers, as I described on my previous presentation. They borrow for some reason. Sometimes people borrow dollars for either because they don't want to sell either today, they want to sell it on all-time high or something like that. So whenever Ether will be back on all-time high, they will return the debt, repay debt, and they will still have their Ether to sell or something like that. But sometimes people make leverage with the money markets. For example, they put Ether, borrow USDC, then they buy more Ether, put it, and then borrow more, and then they have leverage. They turn their $1,000 into $4,000 of Ether value and $3,000 of USD debt. So it's still like 4 minus 1 is 1K, but you have 4x exposure on Ethereum to dollar. It grows faster, but it also drops faster. And those who borrowed, they are happy to pay tens of percentages annually. And those who provide them liquidity, they get this yield. And one more source of the yield is incentivations, like basically farming thing, which was initially proposed by Synthetics. And yeah, that's pretty natural, and some people still remember DeFi Summer in 2020, where there were like hundreds of new assets, tokens, and what they did farmings for liquidity providers. So whenever you provide liquidity of this asset with some other asset, you get more of this asset. Yeah, as you said, it's probably ponzinomics. Yeah, it's like this.
Good ponzinomics.
Yeah, actually, it's like this. It's like a bonding curve, and yeah, it's economical activity which works like this. And if project do not have any other like real application, yeah, it's probably clear Ponzi.
Let's open up the floor to questions. Can we switch over to the Slido? Apparently, there's questions. Questions? No. Let's say the top question, 1inch isn't open source. Ooh. Developers can't generate swap call data without your API. Anton, what do you say?
I need to respond to this, yeah? Okay. Yeah, 1inch is more than one protocol first. So this is about one of the protocols, the very first aggregator one. And this is only true for one of the aggregator protocol method. It's for method swap. But there are like tens other methods to swap on specific pools, on specific sequence of pools and other things. The only super arbitrary swap path is not possible to compose as a call data. That's true. Yeah, probably we'll solve this, but I'm not sure if anyone was asking for this. Yeah,
but some of your code is open source.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
yeah.
every other
GitHub.
protocol is open source. We have limit order protocol, we have farmings, we have Solidity utility library with a lot of useful code. Yeah, all other things are open source. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Good point. All right. The next question: what's the more secure way to generate a random private key using a wallet or repeatedly flipping a coin?
Wait, what?
So what's the best way to generate a private key? Should we risk it on our systems or flip a coin? Or what?
That should be crypto safe random.
True. So what's some opinions on randomness here? I think that's the core of the question. What's the best way to generate randomness?
I can give like a extra comment here. Yes, some projects did not succeed with good random. And this was a huge issue for users whenever they created some wallets. I remember one of the pretty popular extensions in the past, like 1 year ago, they discovered a bug that they only generate for user one of 4 billion private keys. And that was a huge issue. I think most of them were hacked at the end because 4 billion of wallets could be enumerated on your like laptop in like few seconds, few minutes. So it's not a huge deal. So yeah, generating wallets is should be done by a proper code and using a proper source of random. It should be non-deterministic crypto safe random.
So the next question: what value have you delivered back to your user base through your token? For everyone that has a token,
1inch built a system. This fusion thing is where, as I said, resolvers, they can execute professionally trades and compete with each other. The way why they can participate is in this thing that they should have enough delegations. This means that people can stake and delegate their assets to those resolvers. And resolvers, they compete on the market for user orders, and they also compete on these delegations. So the clear way for them to compete for delegations is to share their revenue. They have farm to incentivize everyone who delegated them proportionally to their delegation. So people stake for some period of time, they get this voting power, which is kind of exponential to the lock period. And whenever it's been delegated, you will get rewards from this resolver. And you can redelegate to other resolvers. So what people usually do, they equilibrate and rebalance those yields from different resolvers. So resolvers compete with their sharing revenue with users to being able to proceed resolving of orders. So that's a system which puts resolvers and makes them share their revenue to compete in two different areas, competing for order flow and competing for delegations.
Just before I wrap up, one more question I'll pose, because we have a few hackers here, because it's a hackathon. One sentence advice to hackers.
I can advise that serious...
A quick one, Anton. A quick one, short one.
Short one. Serial building works. Yeah, you should be serious builder in DeFi. So, yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Let's give a hand of applause for the panel.
Thank
Thanks.
you guys.